Hi everyone, this is Karak from ACG, and today I bring you the review for Soma by Frictional Games, available for PC, Mac, Linux, and PS4. This game tells the tale of Simon, a man with brain damage from a prior accident who goes in to get his brain scanned in the hope that the doctors might be able to find a way to fix the issues he's having. You know, just like Total Recall and Quaid, and as you know, that went off without a hitch. The same thing happens here with Simon waking up somewhere completely alien to him. The game then delves into the mysteries of self, virtual reality, murder, and transformation. In fact, there are just a great deal of similarities in theme to Total Recall, which makes sense as the first quote you see is from the author of Total Recall. A first-person horror game set in the confines of an unknown location with a character questioning who he is with minimal weaponry to defend themselves. This sounds like the typical setup of 100 horror games, right? Well, let's see if Soma deals the goods, offering an elegant, eclectic romp into the experience of what someone might see if they took a drink of its namesake. Or maybe Soma falls flat on its face, a direly negligent title with only subtle, useless connections to the literary works of Philip K. Dick and H.P. Lovecraft. So let's check it out. This is the review for Soma, underwater bunkers, a world where craftsman drills breed like wild cats, rampant AI as if there was any other kind, and sea anemone fisting. Remember to subscribe if you like the review. Graphics are up first. Chromatic aberration, the game. That's what this should be called. If a little is awesome, then a ton must be better, right? You see, at first the game just looks good, not great, but acceptable, with fairly high resolution textures and highly interactive environments. Did I say interactive? Sorry, I meant cluttered. Shit is strewn everywhere, and at times it feels like the entire game is playing some kind of trick, as if they just now realized interactive and physics-based items can be put in an engine, and so crap, it's throwable, spinnable, and flickable, might as well throw it in there. The important items change the icon on the screen, resulting in a swinging around kind of gameplay where you look for whatever matters versus finding the 333rd craftsman drill. Once you awaken in your new digs, the setup becomes much easier on the eyes, with unique and mysterious locations exuding the eerie feeling you know the developer was going for originally. Nothing ever looks great though. It's passable with the high number of environmental effects, like when seeing the bad guys your vision begins to corrupt like movies would have you believe computer code does when you get hacked. It's all fairly bog standard stuff, but it's presented well if a little on the basic side. Animations, enemy design, and texturing are all also done pretty well, but at times it really does feel like they were cribbing from the likes of Aliens, The Last of Us, and System Shock across their entire design. Most enemies move with a politician's grace, meandering fellows without usable appendages for doing much more than headbutting their way through doors and occasionally turning on the speed when they sense you. Where the game does excel, however, are little robotic animations, which is strange to say, but to me personally, the robots you meet within the game have far more emotion and atmospheric resonance than any of the creatures you actually face. That could be due to their insanely low risk factor, the creatures I mean, but I'll get to that in a moment. Underwater environments are done very well though, with texturing and polygon clipping across fluids and other missteps sort of taking that back, especially when you're not submerged in water. When you're submerged in water, it's fine, but anywhere else where water is moving around or within a room, it actually looks pretty poor. Overall, I would say okay to good graphics, but with some missteps, like their insane overuse of chromatic aberration. A little is good, so as I said, covering the universe and it must be great. The injury effects in the game turn the chromatic aberration as well as other effects up to a point of causing some pretty serious eye strain, if not just downright being ugly. And due to the way the game works, there's a chance you might be in this state for a very, very long time. Experiencing the world like someone's macing you every 30 seconds is not much fun. Lastly, the graphical design of the world means lights flashing, strobing, knobs to knobinate, levers to levitate, and all kinds of interaction. However, due to the way the game is presented, it can be downright impossible to tell if a button is pushable or if it's just static, resulting in you swiping your view left and right across every generator, gyrating gear, power switch, and light switch in a room. It's a design decision that I think would have been helped with a bit more graphical finesse. Sound, music, and voice.
Oh, hi. Didn't hear you come in. Simon Jarrett, right?
Dr. Munchie?
Well, it's just Mr. Munchie, but I'm working on it. Actually, you're helping me right now.
Is this part of your thesis work?
Yeah.
Yes, the chip. Guess I have no choice.
And sound is up first in the trilogy of awesome as usual, and it's excellent with 3D audio cues continually played out as you sneak, stealth, swim, and sprint past enemies on your way to finding out just what the hell is or isn't going on. Those enemies also sound really amazing, though a couple of those sounds do seem to be a little bit cribbed from past horror games. Though also some audio effects are missing in places, like many times sounds reverberating normally underwater just seem to cause the game to miss out on that extra immersion level that's required for a horror title. And to me, that was a big misstep, especially when you're supposed to be underwater and things do sound the same. It's sort of like hearing gunshots normally in Destiny on the moon. Music. Now this was really purely dynamic ambient, meaning it's soothing layers of constant synths and rarely any formative beats until something interesting happens or you start getting chased by the bad guys that look like they have a case of Amsterdam rot. It just doesn't really get into your head. It does what it's supposed to, layering another atmosphere on top of the visual and physical experience, but it's really no more than that. Voice. This is hit and miss, with some characters hitting emotional resonance really well, like some of the robots left around the abandoned complexes you end up spending most of your game time in. Others, like Simon, hit most of the time, but for what's being experienced, sometimes he sounds like a bartender listening to the town drunk. Okay. Really? That's interesting. Now, without spoiling the game, I could say that you could explain some of that away with the plot, but not all of it, depending on the timing and the subject matter being discussed. Gameplay. Again, without spoilers, I can say this. Simon goes in to have his head examined, and from that point on, just like Total Recall, you're sent on a ride that has you questioning everything from your existence as Simon to the future of mankind to virtual torture. You uncover the mystery in the tried and true manner in which massive mysteries like this must be solved, by turning dials and knobs, because as we know, the universe runs on the circle of life, and what better way to demonstrate that than a knob that goes from nothing to something, which then turns on a thingy, which alights the doodad so that the whatchamacallit can be activated. You see, these problems start right at the beginning. Soma is fairly by the numbers as a horror game. You're presented with a mystery and you go forth. Danger is required, and so it shall be here. This time it's in the form of corrupted man-things mixed with an underwater infection and an AI that's figured out, like all AIs are wont to do, that humans shouldn't be at the top of the food chain. They should be somewhere right around shark chum. Also, there's some bits about what year it may be or may not be and how you came to be there, but to stay out of spoiler territory, I can just say for the most part it's handled with all the dexterity of smashing your thumb with a hammer. You basically run around taking clues from and helping out a virtual pal inside your local PDA. Soma starts with a System Shock feel at first, System Shock 2, but as you're exploring, even as the mystery unfolds around you, you realize fairly quickly that this is all going to be doing the same thing through the entire game. There is no subtle layering of new gameplay activities after the beginning, resulting in a mechanical meandering through an underwater habitat that's, of course, been abandoned, which means flicking switches, experiencing bad timing in the form of everything going wrong right when it seems like it should, and lots of walking. Tons of walking. Boat loads of walking, but interspersed with occasionally punching a sea enemy in its butt, or maybe its face. It's like a one-night stand that way, you can never tell which one. Luckily, control's good, though once you get injured, you're a slobbering, shambling mess of a man until you heal up, but it looks cool, and though it can be ultimately something that gets on your nerves after 15 minutes, it still shows an attention to detail missing in some other titles, where you're fined 7 seconds after taking a crowbar to the balls. To be honest, I was just really surprised about how rote and basic that the story was, and its beats are so predictable that it absolutely offers nothing of interest after a couple hours in. Sure, you can continue to discover what the story is, but it's told at a glacial pace, the kind which Dickens would say, "Whoa, alas, your indiscretions are too short and your environments overstay much." Honestly, the entire game is opening a door, walking and listening to someone talk to you about crap, but constantly not telling you at the same time. You can occasionally hear the story being stretched out. Then sometimes the bad guys see you and you have to hide, which usually involves just kneeling down in place. If they do see you and smash into you or headbutt you, it results in you being knocked out and then back up. And if you don't find a sea creature to finger fiddle to heal yourself, it might happen again or a couple times until you finally die. This kind of lack of terror and fear of life means for the most part you never feel any real threat after the initial Keanu Reeves, "Whoa, these guys are like starfish and dudes that had a baby." Listen folks, this is the last frontier, a deep dark place where mankind since ancient times felt leviathans rested, that has awesome locations like the Mariana Trench, Stygian Abyss, and my favorite, Challenger Deep. deep, and yet all this mystery and cool names and awesome locations does nothing. The game simply isn't scary. It isn't tense because despite getting headbutted by the walking coral factories known as bad guys, it takes a good deal of hits to die, so you get headbutted, usually transporting that enemy a safe distance away, and then you wake up. There's almost no actual gameplay except finding ways to power things on without power or unpower things on that have power, and unlike, say, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter or even Everyone Has Gone to the Rapture, Soma just creaks like an old boat anytime the story tries to get going, springing a leak just when you think it would, and then comes crashing down under the weight of its own rote gameplay. Add to that the almost immeasurably small emotional response you get from the characters, and you're left with an empty, leaking, crashing boat. It was just utterly disappointing in almost all ways, especially when it comes to doling out the story and, well, the gameplay. Fun factor. The first hour was actually fun, the second less so, and by the 8th I could count on my sea and enemy juice-encrusted fingers just how many cool things had happened in that entire hour. It loses steam far too quickly and gets bogged down in repetitive and ultimately reductionist gameplay that makes it unfun. So I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, wait for a deep sale, or never touch it again rating scale. This is a wait for a deep sale, a deep sale. The game is put together well enough and mostly stable, and for those who want to walk around flicking switches and occasionally questioning your own existence and time management, the title would actually probably be acceptable, but that's all it'll ever be, and maybe even barely that. So that's it for me. I hope you liked the review. If you did, hit thumbs up. If you didn't, hit thumbs down. And as always, peace out.